Happy Friday. I am driving over to San Jose, and I was thinking about people that inspire me. And I often just think that it's good to say great things about other people. It's like one of the great gifts in life is to say amazing things about others and about ourselves too, in a sense. So I was just thinking, well, I have to drive over to San Jose. I don't have anybody hanging out with me right now. You can hang out with me. And I can document encouragement for people that I care about, and maybe share this video when I'm done. Also, if anybody wants to join me on Facebook Live, I can split the screen. We can both hang out and chat. I've been wanting to do more of that kind of raw, unprepared, split screen, online video collaboration. So if you're into that, you can write a little comment that says you are. People that inspire me. Well, I mean, ultimately, I've always been most inspired by Jesus. I think the thought of a person that is known for speaking and living out a life of love and service. A guy that apparently never wrote a book, never wrote a song, never ran a company, never started a nonprofit, never became a politician. All the nevers that are assumed about Jesus is unique when you think that more music has been written about him, more books have been written about him, more movements have been started because of him. And I just am absolutely most inspired by him. I think about him, like his last meal with his disciples, his followers, and he gets on his feet and he washes on his knees and washes their feet. And he says, serve others. The least will be first, right? Those that demand to be served will be least. Those that serve will be greatest. The upside down kingdom people talk about, it's just fascinating to me. I think one of the most crazy things to me that's inspiring, because I don't believe if a person dies for their faith, I don't think that really makes a martyr, I don't find to be different than any other person. But one thing that's super unique that I find really inspiring is this thought of loving your enemies, or loving people that hate you, persecute you. I think about Jesus, basically drowning in his own blood on the cross, pulling himself up, and getting a breath just to say to a thief next to him, you will be with me in the kingdom. That must have been so painful for Jesus to do. The guy was going to be with him in the kingdom regardless, right? So why did he have to suffer and push himself up on nails and pull himself up on nails and try to breathe through blood-soaked lungs as he's suffocating to death? So I just find him to be incredibly inspiring. He just comes across, as you read the four guys that kind of wrote his story, as such a humble yet confident man. He said this thing, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and come next to me. I'll take your burden, and you let me walk with you. He says, I am gentle and humble. That's how he described himself. I always thought that was fascinating for such an aggressive leader. So I find him super inspiring. I'm very, very inspired by my wife. So my wife, John, we've been married 15 years. And I just, the depth of things that inspire me about her are quite fascinating. She's very, very creative. She's done 4 albums, a couple of her concerts around the world, so that's like an expression of her creativity. But she's just such a creative person in all things, in the way she makes food, and the way she sets up our home, and the way she tries to guide my life as her husband, oftentimes knowing what's best for me, and the way that she nurtures and cares for our kids. She has creativity even in parenting. And also, just thinking about how our home is always, in my opinion, flawless. We have a 5 and 8-year-old boys, and it's not normal to have a house that's orderly, let alone the extent by which our house is orderly. Our closets are organized, our garage is organized, everything has a place. There's never a dish in the sink, there's never laundry to be done. She's always on top of everything. And I, like recently she took these lights and made this sign joy. It says joy on my wall. I think that was one of the greatest things ever. I'm so inspired by her creativity that would say, I'm going to take lights and create this word joy to declare joy over our home. I'm inspired that she's never on social media. She hasn't been on social media for like 3 or 4 years. Now, I don't want to not be on social media. I love the ability to post a video or interact with people or find out what's going on. And I'm in the business world, so I also need to communicate. I strongly believe everybody's basically a media company at this point, right? Every organization's a media company, every person's a media company. A lot of what we'll look back on as we look back at this time of our life will be, was I taking advantage of the ability to get people's attention and to influence them for my product, my service, my belief, that type of thing. But she's just not on social media at all. And the reason why that inspires me is like to hold to that as a young person, I think we're still young, to hold to that because she understands that she'd end up just kind of losing herself in it and that she has other things in the world that she wants to focus on. I just think that's an inspiring thing that she's chosen to do. So I'm really inspired by my wife. I've always been very inspired by my parents. It's interesting. I grew up, and when I grew up, I almost felt like an immigrant. Even though my family has lived here in the San Francisco Bay Area for 10 generations, and that's a really interesting concept, right? My family's lived in the San Francisco Bay since Lieutenant Moraga founded the Presidio in San Francisco and the city of San Jose. So 10 generations, all of us have been born here. On my mom's side, my dad's side, it's either 4 or 5 generations. Like that's a very unusual heritage. However, when I was born, my parents didn't have any of their fathers or grandfathers in their life. And so kind of that basis of a family, like my mom and dad having their dads were both gone. My mom and dad having their grandfathers, their 4 grandfathers, they were not engaged. And so my parents really started from the ground up. Like they had no advantage. They had no network. They didn't have anything really going for them. Most of their friends did not do well and thrive that they grew up with young. When my parents got together, they didn't turn the heater on, they wore blankets, right? Never went out to eat, didn't go on vacation. Like my parents literally lived the immigrant life. My dad's never had a boss his entire life. They got married in 1974. He was passionate about Jesus, and he thought, well, Jesus was a carpenter, I should be a carpenter. So that's why my dad started a construction company in 1976. And he's been his own boss ever since then. Never really had a partner, never had a boss. He served his clients well, served his employees well, but he never had like somebody helping him out. He never had access to money. Like he had to go sell the service of custom home building and remodeling, use that money to pay his guys, and then keep his family taken care of. So it's fascinating to me how my parents, although they have this heritage of my mom being, a 9th generation Bay Area resident, my dad being a 3rd or 4th, and their families, building great empires in California, yet they're kind of on their own, right? They started solo. So I kind of have this background of this cool heritage, but living almost like a 1st or 2nd generation immigrant is a pretty interesting concept. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm such a hard worker. I just saw my parents hustle so much. My dad, it was very regular. My dad to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning so he could work on plans, bid projects, hit the road at 6 or 7, work all day until 6, 7 at night, come home. He made it a priority to play with me and my brother. So we would wrestle, we would play catch, we would have dinner together. But then when we went to bed, he'd still work until he got too tired and went to bed. And that was 6+ days a week. My mom was a realtor, plus she'd clean homes, plus she'd help, I think, with, education stuff. I mean, preschool, it was a while back, but just inspired by my parents. I just think my parents are incredible people. I believe one of the greatest advantages of my whole life is the way that my parents instilled confidence in me, instilled an entrepreneurial drive in my life, really, never held me back, encouraged me to chase down the things that I wanted to do and I still want to do. And I'm an extreme person, if you're my friend, you know how extreme I am. It makes my strengths really exaggerated and it makes my weaknesses pretty dangerous. So I always have to be mindful and try to be self-aware of my weaknesses and then try to press into my strengths. And my parents, even though I'm such an extreme person, and I know I made them uncomfortable a lot, they still just, supported me. So very, very grateful for that. My kids inspire me. My kids have opened up my eyes to so many things, There's these parts of our being. I often think like my spirit would be the part of me that's in relationship to God, or you might think the universe, or whatever your thought is. It's a spiritual connection. So my spirit's a relationship to God. My soul, I would think, is a relationship to other people. Like right now, if you're watching this video, my soul is trying to connect with your soul, right? My mind is in relationship to myself, and my body is in relationship to the world. That's how I've always thought of myself, as kind of a four-part being. My kids have really opened up my eyes to my overwhelming desire to be childlike. I often think I want to have a childlike spirit, a wise soul, and a humble mind, a humble and confident mind. I want that dual thing. I certainly don't want to be false humble. I'm nothing. I know how graced I am, but I want to be real about that and also live out that I'm no better than anybody. Everybody's an equal, and I'm just grateful for the grace in my life. But I want a humble mind, a humble and confident mind, and I want a healthy body, right? But on the childlike faith thing, I look at my kids and of course they're 5 and 8, so of course they're childlike. But the way they interact with me, like the way they jump off of a table into my arms, or the way that they, want me to swing them around, or the way that they are just, everything is awesome. Like my son might say, "Can I have something?" Like, let's just say it's a string cheese. And I say yes. And my son's like, "Yes!" And I do that too, actually. Even over string cheese. But my sons have this exuberance, this childlikeness for life. And I long to live in that way. I don't want to be serious. I think, a friend of mine said adulting is overrated. And certainly in your spirit it is. Trying to be so grown up and mature about everything all the time. I think there's a sense that it is overrated. And I think there's so much peace and joy that we can get if we choose to live in a happy place. Be optimistic, have belief, have vision, have hope, and trust people even if you get hurt. It's just because you sprain your ankle doesn't mean you shouldn't keep dancing. Just because somebody stabs you in the back doesn't mean you shouldn't still love and trust friends. Just because somebody breaks your heart doesn't mean you shouldn't still pursue a relationship. There is a drive toward living with faith and hope if you approach life, at least in your spirit, from a childlike place. My kids have inspired me in that way so much. And I just love being their daddy. I just posted a video this morning, a little sunset or sunrise time lapse of me walking at the beach with my kids and my wife, and then us kind of wrestling and playing in the hallway. But then we were dancing, and my wife is the ultimate dancer. It's like her thing. I love to work. She loves to dance. I never think about work as a bad thing, right? I wake up Monday morning, I'm pumped. I can't wait. At the end of the day, I'm okay, I'll be back tomorrow to keep changing the world. because I think everything's exaggerated and everything means something and everything matters. But my wife is like that with dancing, right? She's always just been a dancer, dance teacher, performer. But it's not really my nature to just want to dance all the time. But my wife and my kids have drawn me into that. And thinking about like that, dance like nobody's watching, no matter what. Who cares what anybody thinks? Who even cares what I think? Who cares what I look like when I'm dancing? Like, just dance because it's fun, because we can, because there's an ability to jump up and down and spin around. And that's the childlikeness that my kids inspire in me. My kids also inspire me to take my dreams seriously. Sometimes they'll have dreams that I would call, important, or maybe you could say the word, prophetic dreams, or I don't care what label you want to put on it, but the dreams seem to have significance. And they tell me their dreams, and I'm kind of like being guided as a man through my kids' dreams, and I'm thinking, gosh, I need to take my dreams more seriously. My kids are inspiring me and like thinking about the thing I could learn from and take away from the dreams. Sometimes my kids will say things that are hard to hear. It's hard. Nobody wants to be criticized, right? So it's hard for me to be criticized by anybody. Probably hardest to be criticized by your spouse. But with my kids, if they say something critical to me or about me, like, Daddy, you were harsh, or Daddy, I don't know. I'm trying to think of critical things that they would say. Maybe, Daddy, you're looking at, stop looking at your phone, pay attention to me, or anything. If they point out I'm harsh, or I'm disengaged, or maybe I'm selfish, like the way they approach it in like this childlike way, like it just inspires me. Like, I want to, if I have to say something critical to somebody, I really want to approach it like my kids do, right? It's just so powerful the way a child approaches giving some guidance to a human being. It's not oppressive, it's not overwhelming, it's not harsh, right? It's like it comes from a pure place. And thinking about that, other people that inspire me, a lot of the business partners I've worked with in my life, I've never done anything on my own. I've started a lot of things, never done anything on my own. I've always thought that, well, there's a lot of reasons. Why don't I do things on my own? I like to share the risk. I like to share the reward. I think that's a huge reason to do things in partnership. I think I am a very unbalanced person. Like, I got the gift of gab, and I'm a great visionary, and I can attract people and even delegate pretty well, but I'm not great at getting things done. I'm not good at managing people, holding people accountable. I'm not good at holding myself accountable. I shouldn't probably be in charge of operations and finances. Maybe I can get good at some of these things, but they're not my strengths. And I just know that if I were to do solo things, I'd have to handle all that, or hire all those things out, and then manage all the people that I've hired to do those things for me. My ability to succeed would be less. So I've always done things with partners. My partners really inspire me. All of them have had a profound impact on my life. So right now I've been launching all these events. And so I did this Future of Tech event, and that was on November 28th, about a month ago, at the Runway Incubator. And the folks at Runway are incredible. Joe and Katie, the co-directors, and Tyler and Courtney and Jeremy and the rest of the crew. Like, these folks that I'm running these events with, I'm super inspired by these people. I long to be there with them, to go spend time with them. I want to be a part of their world. I love how they're helping to accelerate and incubate these companies in San Francisco, there inside the Twitter headquarters. And so, I've been really enjoying spending time with those folks. C. Simone from Film Hero, kind of like my driving partner that is handling the operations and the coordination of these events. Like, it's been super inspiring to see how she gets things done, how she brings people together, how she leads so well. I learn a lot watching her, and then I feel so much peace, like trusting her to take care of things because she's so diligent. And then I have these folks I have 6 people that I'm working with on a voice app company, and they're all kind of involved with the events. And so all of them really inspire me. And I'll maybe talk about that in a second. But on the event stuff, you know, all these speakers that came, you know, they were my partner in that event. I had 9 speakers on the stage. They spoke for 10 minutes. Then I had, I don't know, 30 or 40 speakers at the pre-event. Like, those are partners, right? I have this idea, like, I want to do this future of tech. I want to bring hope to people. I want people to not be pessimistic and feel oppressed and feel fearful and anxious about artificial intelligence or blockchain or IoT or whatever thing there is in people's mind about technology. Driverless cars. Like, I want people to feel hopeful. Like, this can be redeemed. This can be good for humanity. The moment of singularity doesn't have to be bad. When that happens, it can solve human aging. It can solve the human genome. It can solve how to get rid of cancer. It can fix most of the things in the technical world that are broken. It can be fantastic. It can be. And kind of building a platform to talk about that. So that's the future of tech. And so obviously anytime somebody gets involved, I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so inspired by this person. You know, the reason why I don't put on an event and talk the whole time, the reason why I would have 9 speakers come talk for 10 minutes each is because I have a belief that others have as good of things to share as I do, if not better. Sometimes the best thing I can do is build a platform for somebody and empower them to have a voice. So I have another event coming up on it's in, I guess, 2 weeks on Tuesday, January 23rd. That one's going to be in Reading. It's at Final Draft Brewery. And so I've been inspired working with Adam and Bart, who own Final Draft, been inspired working with Todd Jones and Tony over at the EDC in Shasta County. We've, I think, locked in maybe 15 or 20 speakers for kind of the pre-event and the main event. And, you know, I invited these people because they inspire me, because I find something in them that I am encouraged by that makes me want to be a better man or a better human. You know, I look at Luke Minor and I think to myself, wow, I love how successful he is and how humble and kind of gentle and meek he is in general, but then he has the ability to have these breakout moments of passion. I love how he has so many different networks of friends. I love how gracious and generous he was with me, introducing me to the investment banker, Zane Terrence at Founders Advisors, who I've now been working with. You know, I love how honest Luke was in our conversations, always defining the relationship in an appropriate way and, you know, having the right expectations. Like, I watch Luke live and I think to myself, like, wow, I want to be more like Luke. Another person with a similar personality in Reading is a guy, Corey McCandless, who runs the Civic. You know, very similar traits to Luke. I love being around these guys, and I watch them and I think to myself, I want the inspiration of watching their life to do more than just make me say nice things about them. I want the inspiration of their life to cause me to live differently, right? To model and match what they're actually living. And it's not, of course, not just dudes, right? Like Julie Winter in Reading. I mean, she is involved in the nonprofit world as a leader. She is on the city council. She's on like a half a dozen different boards in her city. And all the while, she's a fantastic, legendary nurse practitioner. Has an awesome, intact marriage. So she makes her family a priority. And I love listening to her. I love just being around Julie and asking her questions and learning from her. And I've always wanted people like Julie in my life. You know, strong, powerful women that I could, you know, come and learn from and follow. Hope Seth is another amazing person that's been inspiring to me. That'll be at the Future of Shasta event. You know, she helped launch the Shasta Venture Hub in the EDC. Then now she helps kind of push forth all the great things happening in Anderson, which is kind of South Shasta County. You know, 4 kids, and she's coming to talk about family and kind of watching how she's productive in the world and still has a family of 4 and all these incredible things. And she's very encouraging, and, you know, she's always trying to find something great to say about people and great with relationships, but also, you know, driven and making things happen. Like, I love being around Hope. And so there's all these people at that event that inspire me. And again, I hope that the inspiration I get from people is not just so I can say a nice thing, but that's important, right? If anybody I've talked about is watching, then they obviously are going to be, encouraged that I think highly of them. But it should be more than that. It should be so that I start to emulate my life after theirs. Other events that are happening I'm pumped about, because that's kind of a new thing in my life. It's a new thing I'm in partnership in. And so I'm doing a kind of a private networking event for private equity firms and venture capitalists and folks that are founders or CEOs of software companies, SaaS companies, kind of gathering them together again over at Runway Incubator on February 6th and 7th. That's private. It's a certain type of person that we want to have in the room, but if you think you might be that type of person that'd like to be there, you can reach out to me. And then on February 20th, I have the Future of the Bay. So I want to bring together as many leaders as I can from the San Francisco Bay Area and give them a voice to speak about what their what their vision is for our region. And so that, I think, is going to be a really wonderful event. I'm doing something called the Future of Blockchain. We have it scheduled for June 26th. I have something called the Future of Entrepreneurship scheduled for August 21st, and then Future of Voice. And so thinking about the folks I want to have speak there and what I want to accomplish, probably do a second annual Future of Tech at the end of this year. So I'm just kind of into these events, I've been getting more involved with other people's events. Like right now I'm heading over to the Transform Our World event with Ed Soloso and kind of his private leadership summit, and involved with events up at Bethel in Redding, and involved with events that New Canaan Society puts on as well. There's just all these incredible things, and I love spending time with people. And it's nice to be face to face. It's how you get deals done. It's how you build a relationship. It's nice to have a relationship built before you really need it. And so these are things I think about as I think about events. So that's kind of a new thing, partners I'm inspired by. I am really, really, really excited about a new company. Kind of name is to be determined and kind of go public with a bit later. But we're building voice apps. I believe that the phone is the remote control of our life. And I think that the phone is one of the devices we're going to speak at. We're also going to speak at our car. We're going to speak at our speakers, at our everything. We'll just be talking to everything eventually, all with the artificial intelligence kind of basis for interaction. I believe strongly that people will read a lot less. They will watch a lot less videos. Having a video would not be as good in the near future as me just grabbing a little voice and just recording and posting a podcast. And so I have a team that I'm working with. They do all the work. I do all the talking. And but that works best for me. It's better if I don't do work. Then I can't go and get people engaged with us, right? So I know my role. And so we've created a product so that people can upload Alexa flash briefings, kind of auto magically. And then we're also doing consulting and services around things like Amazon Alexa, Apple Siri, Samsung Bixby, Microsoft Cortana, Google Assistant. So I'm all in on voice. Of course, that includes podcast or social media posting that's kind of voice focused. And so I have these 6 folks that work with me. And I feel like all 6 of them, are just amazing people. I like to think of them as and treat them as peers. I know, nobody's an employee. We're all just working together on these projects right now. And, these 3 gals, I said you're the Wonder Women, and they thought that was cool. So they kind of call themselves the Wonder Woman, which I thought is awesome because I think that they are superheroes in the stuff they accomplish. The 3 guys, joked around them being the Mighty Men. And, I think they are, and I think it's fun, right? Wonder Woman, Mighty Men. I'm just one of the Mighty Men. And just, it's always fun to have, to build an identity, right? To build a team, to build something that is you're driving toward a goal together. You have a common purpose. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. And so these people inspire me. John Weesey, he's been working on machine learning, which we call artificial intelligence. He's been working on that patent since 1994. You know, he's an incredible technologist, great executive. I feel very, very safe with him involved in my life because he's so wise. You know, and then Annalise de Jong, she's kind of the youngest person on our team, and she has this incredible ability to get things done as a operational administrator, and then also just a very, very brilliant. You know, she has this aptitude to be able to do things with big data and research. She's great with people, so it's just fun to watch, you know, and to encourage her to thrive. Ryan Stickle, you know, from Dream App Labs, which, by the way, if you need a great iOS app, he's one of the best. And he has like this, I always long to work with developers that have figure-it-outness. And he does, like, to the max. You know, he just figures it out, makes it happen. And I find myself wanting to do cartwheels when he's showing me the stuff he's working on. Whitney Hancock, she is the founder of the Reading Civic Dance Company, and you know, just full of life and does amazing things in the creative space and in the arts. And you know, she has a lot that she brings to the table for us with content and strategy, and it's just fun. She just brings such a spark to our little tribe that we're developing. And Ryan Opfer, you know, Ryan and I have joked, you know, we got the yin yang thing going, right? I'm super extroverted and he's introverted, and I talk a lot and he does a lot of stuff. And the stuff he's done is legendary. I keep asking myself, like, wait, you did that too, and you did that too. So I just love being around these folks. Jen Ko, who it feels like she has lived so many lives and done so many things. I wouldn't even know where to start, but she's just a brilliant strategist, really, you know, organized and assertive, helps us stay on task and get things done. Also great with content, very creative, great on video, great speaker, and she's doing things right now, like on social media. I was telling her, I'm like, I've never seen anybody do the stuff that you're doing on Instagram stories. It's just very, very fascinating the way that she's documenting her life. I just find it to be fun to engage with, and then also just I learned a lot from her. So, you know, like, again, I can be inspired by anybody, right? Like, I can go speak at a startup weekend and get suckered into pitching an idea and accidentally start a company, and meet 6 strangers that I don't know and find the gold in their life. That's the whole point of being inspired by people. You find what's great about them. Even if it's hard, even if you have to dig to figure out what's great about somebody, you dig until you find out what's great about them. And then you speak forth life into them and to yourself quietly. Remind yourself how amazing this person is, why you care about this person, why you honor this person, why you're serving this person, and then learn from them, model your life after them, right? I mean, that's why the whole thought of talking about right now who inspires me was something I wanted to do, you know, because I want to bring to light great things about great people. Well, I'm gonna be over at this conference in a couple minutes, and I'm pumped to see Ed. I certainly think that, you know, there's a lot of powerful leaders that are very inspiring. Ed Silvoso is a leader unlike anybody I've ever met in my life. Ed, I just never felt like anybody treated me like Ed Silvoso. I don't know. He's amazing. He's like a father's father. You know, he is a very powerful, gentle, inspiring, and present leader. And the way he thinks and communicates is unique. And so I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of his life, to serve him and his network, to be going to his event today, that he would invite me to speak. was just wonderful, and I'm super grateful for that. He's very involved in the events that I'm doing. He's very involved in the voice company. He was the first person to say, hey, I really want you to do this. I'll get behind you on it. So I think maybe the most inspirational thing about Ed is his family. You know, him and his wife Ruth, and their 4 daughters, their sons-in-law, their grandkids. I want to have a family like the Celosos. I want to inspire others to make family a priority, the way that he inspires me. I have a long way to go. It's easy to talk about my family being number one. It's easy to think my family is number one, or feel my family is number one. It's really hard to implement it in my actions. And so I see him implement that in a way that's unique, and I love that a lot. But there's a lot of incredible, leaders I've had the grace to spend time with. I spent a lot of time up in Redding at Bethel with Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin and their teams, and so many friends there that I care about. I'm always just thinking like, wow, I'm so glad to be a part of this family. And I could talk about that forever. I have a lot of friends that are part of like business networking groups, right? Folks like James Anderson, who runs New Canaan Society, and all the amazing people that are kind of in that network. Dan Lewis out in San Francisco with Gil, and Tony, and Dustin in the Silicon Valley, and Steve Collins over in the East Bay. Like, these guys totally inspire me. These incredible leaders that are fostering community and driving forth collaboration, and drawing people to live out the kingdom, not just solo but together. Like, I find these people to be amazing. Or folks like Bob Shank with the Master's Program, and all that Bob has spun out, right? Spinning out with Jim West, the Barnabas Group, and now seeing like what Larry's doing up in the East Bay with the Barnabas Group, or seeing how Brian Dowd and Noah Elias have kind of like pushed forth the future of the Master's Program. And I think these people are just incredible. The thing about Calvary Chapel, I got to spend years with Chuck Smith and his team down at Calvary Costa Mesa, and I remember seeing Chuck. He's still at that point preaching 20 times a week, which I think is hilarious. He's in his early 80s, and he's still convinced that all you want to do is just teach the Bible. Said just start in Genesis and end in Revelation, do it again and again and again. That's cool. We all get to have our own belief about what's the best way to go about developing a spiritual tribe and community. And the truth is, inside of his environment, I learned the Bible really well. So thanks, Chuck. But the thing I found most profound was not his Bible teaching. I found it profound that he has built this empire, and he still would he'd still golf cart himself from kind of building to building, depending on what he was doing. And he had his little trash picker upper, right? And so I just see him picking up trash. Or, people would come up to him, he's 82, 83, 84, and, strangers, and ask him to take a photo. And I got to think, an 83-year-old dude is not wanting to take selfies. But, Chuck was gracious. He's like, oh, sure. People asked for prayer. I would see Chuck pull out his little bottle of oil, put a little oil on his hand, and touch people, and, anoint them with oil and pray for them. And it was those things that I found to be really unique about Chuck, and that I learned and was inspired by. I was fortunate to grow up with a couple dudes that have really pushed forth, spiritual leadership and environments and communities here in the Bay Area, with Dan Kimball, who's at Vintage, and Josh Fox over at Westgate. And those guys always inspired me, taught me so much, And again, the reason why I bring up all these folks that inspire me is because it's important. It's important to find the great things about people, and then talk about them, and make much of them, and celebrate them. And I think that's just a driving thing. Hey, excuse me. Hello. Here you go, man. God bless you. Like that guy right there, that guy, he can be anything. Like maybe he has a mental condition, so it's not that easy. Maybe he's on drugs, so it's not that easy. I don't want to discount that people either have chemical things wrong or put themselves in bad situations, but like he's down and out. My $3 is not going to do anything for him. You know, maybe buy him, you know, a little vial of booze. I don't know. But I'm so glad he was there because he is still trying, I guess. I'm glad he's not in a ditch. I'm glad he has a sign, right? He's still trying to do something. He's still trying to get out there, even if he's going about it the wrong way. I wish he was at a Salvation Army or a Teen Challenge or a, you know, someplace that would give him a house and a food and try to get him on his feet and train him for a job. I would rather some dude do that, but at least he's not right this moment, you know, in a ditch or raping somebody or stealing something. He's politely and gently holding a sign and asking. And maybe that's the best he can do right now. So see, you can find the good in anybody. You can be inspired by just about anyone. You know? That's the truth. That's the real thing. Well, I'm here. It's time to go hang out with my friends. I'm glad that I got to document some of my thoughts. And for those of you that join me, thanks for your attention. I certainly appreciate it. And I am loving you right now.